Today we're going to take a look at parallel and perpendicular slopes. Now hopefully you already know a little bit about slopes, and so we're just going to focus in on the parallel and perpendicular side. First off, we have to know that the slope is always the number in front of x whenever y is by itself. So we're given an equation, and we're going to take a look at the number in front of x. And then we have to know that parallel slopes are the same. So we take a look at this first equation here, and we see -3 is the slope in this particular equation. Well, we want to know what the parallel slope is going to be. Now, what I've just drawn, the two lines that are parallel to each other obviously mean parallel, and m means slope. So the parallel slope is going to be the exact same as the slope I have in this equation, which would be -3. So parallel slopes are very easy. All you have to do is to find the slope, and then your answer is the exact same number. Take a look at this second one here. We want the parallel to 4/5. Well, the parallel slope would be the exact same, 4/5. So parallel slopes are pretty easy. The difficulties people have with parallel slopes is that they get them confused with perpendicular slopes. Now, perpendicular slopes are opposite reciprocals, and there's two things that we have to do. So once again, my slope is -3, and the symbol for perpendicular is an upside down T. So whenever we do perpendicular, the first thing we have to do is the opposite. Opposite means to change the sign. So if my slope is a -3, then the opposite is going to make it positive. So I know my perpendicular slope is going to be positive. And then we have to take the reciprocal. Now, if you remember back when we dealt with slopes, then slope is always seen as a fraction. So a whole number would always be over 1. So we're going to take -3/1 and we're going to flip it. Now, we've already said that we're going to make it positive, but we're going to take the 3/1 and we're going to flip it. And the perpendicular slope is a positive 1/3. So perpendicular, you do two things. You change the sign, and then you flip the fraction. So if you look at our second one here, our fraction once again is 4/5. So the perpendicular slope, the opposite means that we're going to be negative. And then if we take 4/5 and we flip it, then we're going to get 5/4. So my perpendicular slope is -5/4. Now, it's not like I said that this is difficult, but people get these confused. Or with perpendicular, they only do one thing. They just make it positive, or they just flip it. And you have to do both things on perpendicular. So let's take a look at a couple of problems. So this one, the first question says, what is the parallel slope of y equals 5x minus 8? Well, the parallel slope is equal to, if 5 is my slope, then it's the same thing. So the parallel slope is 5. The second question, what is the perpendicular slope of 1/7x plus 3? Okay, so we want perpendicular slope. So the perpendicular slope, I'm going to have to do two things. First, change the sign. Well, this is positive, so my answer is going to be negative. And then flip the fraction. Well, 1/7 flips to become 7/1. I don't necessarily have to have the 1, so my perpendicular slope is just -7. Now, if you want to put -7/1, you can, but -7 is the same thing. Okay, taking a look at two other questions. Now, this one, it says, what is the parallel slope? But y is not by itself, so we cannot take a look at the number in front of x yet. So I have to be able to get y by itself. Now, if you don't know how to do that, then we have a video on how to get y by itself. But if you do know how to do it, then we'll go ahead and do it. And we're going to subtract 3x from both sides to get y by itself. And we have 2y is equal to -3x plus 8. Then we'll divide everything by 2. That cancels out, and we have y equals -3/2x plus 4. Now, we were wanting to know what the parallel slope was. So I'm looking for the parallel slope. So my slope is the number in front of x when y is by itself, so it's going to be negative 3 over 2. So the parallel slope would be negative 3 over 2. It's the exact same thing. Okay, looking at the last question, what is the perpendicular slope? Well, once again, y is not by itself. So we're going to have to get y by itself before we can do this. So we're going to add 5x to both sides. This cancels that out. Leaves me with negative 3y is equal to 5x minus 9. And then we're going to divide everything by negative 3. Divide everything by negative 3. And y is equal to a negative 5 over 3x. And then two negatives make a positive 3. Okay, well, all we care about is that number in front of x. And we're looking for perpendicular slope. Once again, the perpendicular slope, there's two things that we have to do. We have to change the sign. So if this is a negative 5 over 3, my perpendicular slope is going to be positive. And then we take the fraction and we flip it. So my answer is going to be a positive 3 over 5. Now, like I said, parallel and perpendicular slopes aren't necessarily difficult, but a lot of kids get these confused. And so we've got to make sure we keep the rules separate. And then second is a lot of kids will only apply one rule to perpendicular, and they'll just change the sign or they'll just flip, and you have to do both of them in order to get perpendicular.